Good morning once again, everybody. Welcome back to our virtual classroom. And for today, for math, here's what we're going to do. Today, we are going to be working on our second part of converting small units to large units. You're probably saying, Mr. Johnson, we talked about it on the last lesson. Well, that was the first part. Now we're going to expand this a little bit using some different units. So, last time I asked you all the question, what units can you use to measure the length of an object? So we said there's a US, we went over the US customary units, meaning you can measure objects in inches, feet, yards, or miles. We say we can also measure it in millimeters, centimeters, and meters. These are your metric units. So the last time we've measured objects in two sizes, but we did it using the customary units. But today we are going to be measuring objects in units, and we're going to not only measure them, we're going to convert them from the smallest units to the largest. So in other words, we're going to we might take a millimeter and measure. We might take an object, measure it in millimeters and centimeters, or we might take an object, measure it in centimeters and meters. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So today we are going to be measuring using these units. Okay. Now before we do, let's go over here to our chart. Okay, so before I even go over this chart, let's go over here to my ruler. If you do not remember or not sure how long a millimeter is, if you look at these little tick marks, these all represent a millimeter. Now, if you look closely, you'll see these large numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I take 10 of these small millimeter marks and put them together, that makes a centimeter. So this is 1 centimeter, this is 2 centimeter, this is 3 centimeter, this is 4 centimeter. So from here to here, this is how long a centimeter is. This is a centimeter. Now, let's say this is a whole centimeter. What if I was to take 100 of these and put them together? What will I have if I take 100 centimeters and put them together? If I take a minute, if you got a phone, you can even look it up. If I take 100 centimeters and put them together, if you says that makes 1 meter, you are correct. So 100 centimeters is the same as 1 meter. So if I take take this centimeter, put 100 of them together, that makes 1 whole meter. Now, since I'm not able to get a meter stick, I looked everywhere I can, looked through Walmart, Target, couldn't find anything. So I am going to show you how long a meter is. So I want everybody to look at this little box right here. Matter of fact, we're going to take it here. We're going to compare it to the metric side of this ruler. So once again, these here are centimeters. And if you look at this box from this end to the other, that is how big 1 meter is. So from this end of the box to the other, that is what that's how long an entire meter is. So that's 1 whole meter. Now, this is 1 whole meter. Here's my next question. What if I was to take 1,000 of these? Take 1,000 of these meters and stack them from one end to the other. What would that make? You can look it up if you want. If I take 1,000 meters, 1,000 of these, and stack them one end to the other in a line. Okay, let's go back to our board. But before we do, if I take 1,000 of these meters and stack them together in a line, I am going to have what's called a kilometer. Some may say kilometers, some may say kilometer. So let's go ahead and write that down. Oops. Oh, well. So if you say 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer or 1 kilometer, you are correct. So that's how long 1,000 meters equals to. 1 kilometer. So we know today, if you take 100 centimeters and put them together, that makes 1 meter. But if you take 1,000 of these meters and put them together, that makes 1 whole kilometer. Now, if you want an idea what a kilometer is, think about if you're back at Avalon and you are walking from, and now, if you know where Ebenezer AME Church is, if you was to walk from Avalon Elementary to walk from there all the way over to where Ebenezer AME Church is, that's about the distance of a kilometer. So if you want to get an idea of how long 1 kilometer is or 1 kilometer, I'm gonna say kilometer. That's how long a kilometer is. Okay, so one more time, 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I have some objects in my house that we are going to measure. And as we measure these objects, we're going to do the same thing we did last week. We're going to measure it in the smallest unit, and then we're going to measure it, and then we're going to convert it over to a large unit. So for today, I think I'm going to take these 3 objects. I'm going to measure them in centimeters, and then we're going to measure it we're also going to measure that same object into meters. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to measure our objects today in centimeters and meters. So we're going to step in my kitchen for a minute. And here's our first object. Let me turn this light on. There we go. Okay. I'm going to show everybody the counter space in my kitchen. Okay, so this is my kitchen counter. Now, I have already measured it in centimeters. I measured it from this end all the way to that end. I measured it in centimeters already. It wasn't easy because I had to take the metric stick and line it up. Anyway, I had to line it up. So it wasn't easy. So, but anyway, I've already measured it in centimeters. So from this end to this end, when I measured it, this countertop is 180 centimeters long. That's how many centimeters long this counter is from here to here. It's 180 centimeters. Now, I already know how many centimeters it is, but guess what? I also want to know how many meters it is. Okay? So we're going to turn this 180 centimeters over into meters, just like we did last week when we measured the door, measured the armoire, and measured it in inches and feet. We are going to measure these objects in centimeters and meters. So let's figure it out. Now, there's 2 ways I could do it. I could measure it with a meter stick, but I don't have a meter stick. Okay, so we are going to use our math and we're going to use our brains. So we're going to take 180 centimeters and we're going to turn it into meters. You're probably going to figure out how we're going to do that. We don't have a metric stick. Okay, I want everybody to think about it. Now, we just went over this a couple of minutes ago. I want everybody to look at the centimeter. Now we're taking all these centimeters and we're breaking it up into meters. We're taking all these centimeters and breaking it up into meters. How many centimeters are in 1 meter? How many centimeters does it take to make 1 meter? Look back on the board. Back, let's go back. it takes 100 centimeters to make 1 meter. So since it takes 100 meters to make 1 meter, and we're breaking these up, we're going to take 180 centimeters and we're going to divide it by 100. So that is how we're going to turn this into meters. Because since it takes 100 centimeters to make a meter, we're going to take these 100 centimeters and break it up by divide it by 100. Break it up in 100. So, using your brains or your calculators, if I take 180 centimeters and divide it by 100, what will be my total? Give you a minute. When I use my calculator, I get 1.8. 1.8 what? We're turning these centimeters into what? We're turning it into meters. So if you said 1.8 meters, you are correct. So from this end of the countertop to this end, there are two sizes. I can say 180 centimeters, or I could also say 1.8 centimeters. There's another easy way to do it without using a calculator. So when you are dividing, when you're dividing by 100, think of it this way. There's 2 zeros. Think of it here. Since there's 2 0 places, we're going to move this backward. We're going to move this up 2 0 places. I put my decimal here. I still get 1.8. So, once again, this countertop is 1.8 is 180 centimeters, and it's also 1.8 meters. Okay, so now let's go to our second object for today. We're going to go here into my living room. Let's turn the light on for a minute. Now, let's go back to the front door area, but I'm not going to measure the door. This time, I'm going to measure the height of this wall. I'm going to measure from the bottom up to the top. Matter of fact, I'm going to start here at the very bottom, and I'm going to go all the way up here to the very top. Now, before we started this lesson, I have already measured this wall, but before I show you distance, let's just take one good look at it. Okay. So once again, it was not easy measuring it in centimeters, but when I did, from the bottom of the floor all the way to the top, this measures 235 centimeters. That's how many centimeters tall this wall is. 235 centimeters. Okay. Now, if I've already measured it in centimeters, I also want to show it in meters. So just like we did when I measured the my countertop, how am I going to turn 235 centimeters into meters? Think about it. We're going to take 235 centimeters and we're breaking it into meters. How many centimeters does it take to make 1 meter? How many centimeters? Since there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter, we divide it by 100. So we're going to take 235 centimeters divided by 100 centimeters. So with your calculator, using your brain, or using the other strategy of moving the decimal place, how many meters tall is this is my wall? With your calculator, or whatever you use, if you said that this is, if you got, If you got 2.35, you're right so far. 2.35 what? We're turning this in from centimeters to meters. If you said it's 2.35 meters, you are correct. So there are two sizes for this wall. We could say that this wall is 2.35 centimeters tall. I'm sorry, we can say it's 235 centimeters tall, or we could say it's 2.35 meters tall. So everybody see what we just did? We took this smaller unit and converted it to a larger unit, okay? Or there's another way I could do it. 235 divided by 100. There are two zeros, and since we're dividing, we're going to move the decimal this way. Pretend to have the decimal here, move it two places since I have two zeros, and I have 2.35. So once again, the height of this wall is 235 centimeters or 2.35 meters. Okay, we got one more object we are going to measure. One more object we're going to measure in centimeters and meters. Let's look at my cereal box. Okay, now I have measured it from the bottom all the way up to the top. Okay, and when I measured it from the bottom of the top, I got 34 centimeters. 34 centimeters is way smaller than a meter, but that's fine. Okay, so the answer we get is going to be the fraction of a meter. So once again, we're going to take this 34 centimeters and we're going to convert it into meters. We're taking a smaller unit and converting it to a bigger unit. So 34 centimeters. What am I going to do? Just like I did with the wall, just like I did with the counter, what am I going to do? Once again, how many centimeters does it take to make a meter? We're breaking up 34. Since there it takes 100 centimeters to make 1 meter, it's 34 centimeters divided by 100. So what is 34 divided by 100? Using your calculators, using your brain, or using the strategy that I showed you earlier with moving the decimal places? What is the answer? If you said that 34 centimeters divided by 100 is 0.34, you're right so far. 0.34 what? We're turning it from centimeters into meters. If you said 0.34 meters, you are correct. So from the bottom of our Frosted Flakes box to the top, I can say it's 34 centimeters, or I could say it's 0.34 meters. That is the height of it. Matter of fact, if I was to compare this, remember, we said that this is a whole meter, right? And when I put this box at the end, is an entire meter? Nope, it is not an entire meter. It's about 1/3 of a meter. So from here to here, that's 0.34 of an entire meter. Okay. All right. So once again, when I measure this box, I measure in 34. I can say it's 34 centimeters, or I could say it's 0.34 centimeters. What if I wanted to use moving the decimal place? There are two zeros, and we're dividing it. So since we're dividing it, we're going to move it this way. 1, 2. 1, 2. I put the decimal place here, and I got 0.34. Now, if I was multiplying it, I would move the decimal this way. But since I am dividing it, I'm moving it this way to the left. Okay? Okay, so let's move this out of the way. Here is what we are going to do. You are going to need this for your assignment for today. Now, for our cheat sheet to help us understand, when converting a smaller unit to a larger unit, and once again, this This is similar to what for our last lesson, but this time, this is from the metric system. So this is for metric units. So this isn't for inches, feet, and yards or miles. This is for centimeters, meters, kilometers, millimeters, whatever. Okay, so here's a rule. Just like we did with the 3 objects that we measured. Rule number 1. If you're converting centimeters to meters, you're going to divide the total centimeters by 100 centimeters. So you measure the object, measure it in centimeters. If you measure it in centimeters, if you want to convert it to meters, divide it by 100, and that will tell you how many meters the object is. Now, let's say I want to take objects that I measured into meters, and I want to convert it to kilometers. I'm going to divide the total meters by 1,000 meters. And why would I divide it by 1,000 meters? Remember, how many meters does it take to make a kilometer? Since it takes 1,000 meters to make a kilometer, that's what we're going to use. So let's say I wanted to measure a tree, or I wanted to measure a building. Maybe I want to measure how far you jogged or how far you rode on your bike. You would take that length in meters, write down the meters. After you write down the meters, you divide it by 1,000, and that will tell you how many meters. So that is how you convert meters to kilometers. You divide the total meters by 1,000, and that will give you the total kilometers. So one more time. If you want to convert centimeters to meters, divide the total centimeters by 100 centimeters. If you want to convert the meters to kilometers, divide the total meters by 1,000 meters. And I'm going to leave this up here. That way, when it's time for you to do your assignment, you can come back to this part of the video and you'll have the chart. Okay, let's go ahead and practice. So, for this chart, I have 2 charts. I'm going to start with this chart. On this side, I have some lengths that are in centimeters. I want to take these centimeters and I want to convert it into meters. So I want to convert these into meters. I'm converting it from a smaller unit, which is a centimeter, to a larger unit, which is a meter. So let's start with 400 centimeters. If I want to take 400 centimeters and convert it into meters, what am I going to do? If you said I want to divide, you're correct, but what am I going to divide? How many centimeters are there in, many centimeters does it take to make a meter? If you said it's going to be 400 divided by 100, you are correct. 400 divided by 100 equals, with your calculator, use your brain, move the decimal places. What are you going to get? If you said I'm going to get 4, you are correct. 4 what? 4 meters, because we're converted to meters. So 400 centimeters is also the same as 4 meters. Let's look at 230 centimeters. I want to convert 230 centimeters to meters. What am I going to do? How many centimeters does it take to make 1 meter? If you say I'm going to divide it by 100, you're correct. When I take 230 divided by 100, what do I get? If you said that I'm going to get 2.3, you are correct. So far, 2.3 what? 2.3 meters. So 230 centimeters is also the same as 2.3 meters. Let's look at 65 centimeters. Much smaller than a meter, but that's fine. We can still do it. 65 centimeters divided by what? How many centimeters does it take to make a meter? 65 centimeters divided by 100. 65 centimeters divided by 100 equals what? Using your calculator or using the decimal strategy. If you said 0.65, 0.65 what? 0.65 meters. There's a big one. Now, here's a different one because this one already has a decimal in it. 14.5 centimeters. We're going to convert this into meters. Even though it's much smaller and it's a decimal number, we're still going to convert it. 14.5 centimeters. If you said I'm going to divide it by 100, you're correct so far because there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. 14.5 divided by 100 equals, if you said 0.145 meters, you are correct. So 400 centimeters is also the same as 4 meters. 230 centimeters is the same as 2.3 meters. 65 centimeters is the same as 0.65 meters. And 14.5 centimeters is the same as 0.145 meters. So everybody see what we just did? We took these smaller units and we converted them over into a larger unit. Now, before we go over our assignment, let's take these. All right, let's take these links here. We're going to take these links and we're going to convert these meters and we're going to convert them to kilometers. So we're converting them into much larger number. We're converting much bigger numbers here, or much bigger unit. So 5,000 meters, I want to turn this into kilometers. How am I going to do that? Think about what we said earlier in the lesson. How many meters now does it take to make a kilometer? How many meters? Let's look back on our board. It takes 1,000 meters to make 1 kilometer. And let's look back on our formula. So since it takes 1,000 meters to make 1 whole kilometer, since we're converting meters over into kilometers, we are going to divide by 1,000. 5,000 meters divided by 1,000. Why 1,000? Because it takes 1,000 meters to make 1 kilometer. 5,000 meters divided by 1,000. Actually, just pretty easy. If you said 5, you are correct so far. 5 what? We're turning these meters into what? Kilometers. So if you said kilometers, you are correct. So 5,000 meters is the same as 5 kilometers. Let's try 4,200 meters. What are we going to do to turn 4,200 meters into kilometers? Once again, how many meters does it take to make a kilometer? It takes 1,000. So you're going to take 4,200 divided by 1,000. So with your calculators, with your brains, with the decimal strategy, we'll go over that in a minute. What is the answer? 4,200 divided by 1,000 on your calculator. If you got 4.2 what? We're turning these meters into kilometers. So if you said 4.2 kilometers, you are correct. Let me see if I can use my pencil here for a minute. If I wanted to use the strategy of moving the decimals, since we're dividing, we're going to move the decimals over to the left. How many zeros do I have? I have 1, 2, 3. So I move it over 1, 2, 3. I have a decimal, pretend the decimals at the end, just like it is here. 1, 2, 3. That would give me 4.2. Now, 600 meters. 600 meters is way smaller than a kilometer, but guess what? We can still do it. We're just going to end up getting a fraction of a kilometer, not a whole one. So if I want to convert 600 meters into kilometers, what am I going to do? How many meters does it take to make a kilometer? It takes 1,000. So it's going to be 600 meters divided by 1,000. What's 600 meters divided by 1,000? If you said the answer is 0.6, 0.6 what? If you said 0.6 kilometers, you are correct. What if I wanted to use the decimal strategy? Since I'm dividing, I'm moving my decimal to the left. Now, if I was multiplying, I would move it over to the right. But since I'm dividing, we're going to move our decimal to the left. There are 3 zeros, so move 1, 2, 3 times. So we'll pretend our decimal's here, just like it's at the end here. 1, 2, 3. My decimal will be in front of the 6, just like it is here. So, did everybody see what we just did? We converted meters to kilometers. 5,000 meters is the same as 5 kilometers. 4,200 meters is the same as 4.2 kilometers. 600 meters is the same as 0.6 kilometers. And I'm going to hold this up for a moment so everybody get an idea once again of what we did. So on this chart, we took our centimeters and converted it into meters. And how did we did that? We divided it by 100 because it takes 100 centimeters to make meters. And on this side, we took meters and converted it into kilometers. So we converted our smaller unit into a bigger unit. How do we do that? We divided it by 1,000. Why? Because it takes 1,000 meters to make 1 kilometer. Okay, let's go ahead and go over today's assignment. And this assignment will also be due Friday. Okay, so prayerfully I will be sure to send the correct assignment tonight. Okay, so practicing conversions with length. This chart looks very similar to what we did last week. Matter of fact, some of you got the sheet that started off with the metrics. Actually, I sent the wrong one. I meant to send you the one with just the U.S. customary units. But what I did is I changed the numbers. So, got some bigger numbers this time. So we're going to turn all these meters into kilometers. And just like we talked about on the board, how are we going to turn these meters into kilometers? And on the second chart, we're going to turn these centimeters into meters. How am I going to turn these centimeters into meters? And don't forget to write or type. Pretty much type, because you're going to do this assignment the same way you did the last assignment. You're going to do it on Google Classroom. Write down the rule. How do I convert these centimeters into meters? How do I convert these meters into kilometers? Also, on the second and last page, you're going to get 2 more conversions. Another conversion chart, and you're going to get 2 word problems that are on the bottom. So pretty much that is it. If you have any questions, reach me on Google Classroom, Class Dojo, or you can email me. So that's about it. Hope everybody understood the lesson. And I will talk to you, all on Monday morning with our next lesson. So everybody stay safe. Everybody stay well, you and your family, and you all have a great day.